If you like links in the show notes, you're going to love this episode. This is Corey, and this is the Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob.
So, St. Patrick's Day, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I had something interesting happen.
Oh, we're just going to dive right in. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
What happened?
Something interesting happened? Please tell me.
Yes.
Me and Laura.
Wait, should we save it for the podcast, or?
Well, we're recording now.
Oh.
You don't remember when we did the intro? The hi, this is Corey. This is the Anthem podcast.
I got a phone full of whores. Give my attention.
Well, I won't keep you. If you want more of the Anthem.
Yes. We all know where my priorities lie, okay?
Do any of them listen to the podcast?
All of them, actually.
Oh, nice.
Or at least they listen to enough of it that they can pretend to have a conversation with you. You know how interested I am in you? I listen to your podcast where you said this thing.
They listen to I really like that part where you said good afternoon, everybody.
No, what they do is they click on the video we have now, and now they're like, even better, I don't even have to listen to the stupid podcast. I listen to the 1 minute and ask them about that. So,
that was really funny when you talked about Haloti Nada. It was like, oh yeah.
Wait, wasn't that in the... Anyway, I'd like to suck your dick, please.
It's so funny that all the things that I've... anytime somebody comments to me about the podcast, they bring up something that I don't remember us talking about on the podcast.
Right, yeah.
It's like, oh, that's really funny, the thing you said about Russian independence. And I'm just like, what did I say? I have no idea what I said.
Even better is the people who are catching up, and they're like, oh yeah, remember when you talked about blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, was that this week? And they're like, no, episode 12. Like, listen, man, we're 50 in now. I have no idea.
I can't wait until the day where we're like famous and interviewed on Extra or something like that. And it's just like, we'd like to talk to you about a really controversial thing you said on episode 33 of your podcast.
We're at episode 1500. What the
about poor people,
right? And
how you feel about them. And I'm just like, oh, what did I say?
We're gonna play it for you now. Go ahead.
And then I listen to it, and I'm just like, well, that certainly sounds like me.
That sounds
like you got me dead to rights.
That sounds like 2014 me. Let me tell you what's changed. $440 million.
And of that, $40 million went to charity.
Right. Yeah.
$45 of that went to a bull roast.
Got to keep those receipts. Anyway, sorry.
I'm gonna walk in and be like, yeah, I'm gonna need a letter so I can bring it with my taxes.
Right. Yeah.
Right off that $45.
But you're worth like $50 million. Hey.
Every little bit counts.
Yeah. You don't understand. Taxman's on my back.
Oh. So St. Patrick's Day. Laura and I take the circulator to Fells Point.
It's time for the circulator. It's time for the circulator. Anyway.
One of the few city services I really enjoy.
Right. And by the way, we patented that song.
Yeah.
3 months before it became the song for the circulator. Pretty sure they bugged the circulator. They heard us singing it and stole our idea.
Yeah. They probably stole a whole bunch of our ideas if they got it on the circulator.
We were super drunk on the circulator a lot.
Talking about all our great ideas.
Yes, bastards. Anyway, so you're on the circulator.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we get off right near Raw Sushi. And if you know the area, there's a little snippet of waterway that is connected to the inner harbor of the Patapsco.
Right, yes. It's a drainage, right? Isn't it like it doesn't go anywhere? It just kind of comes in there and stops.
Yeah, it's just like a pull-out area. I think
a tidal pool.
Something tells me that ships go in there from time to time, like
or
little boats.
Used to, at least.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah.
Anywho, I was looking in the water because that's what I like to do. I like to look in the water and get disgusted and get angry about it.
Now, see, what I imagine is that you're walking and you were like, yeah, so I really have this really important thing I have to tell you about, Laura. Is that a fish? So I wanted to... What was I saying? I don't remember.
Well,
ADD.
Here is what happened. Right. I looked in the water, and I saw a dead floating fish. Mm-hmm. I said, wow, that pollution killed that fish. And by pollution, I mean what we like to call water.
Right. Now, I did not realize you had the autopsy skills, that you were autopsying the fish to figure out what it was.
I could just assume.
Oh, okay.
Because I know that if I jumped in that water, I'd be dead.
Now I'm picturing you floating, belly up.
Even if I didn't die immediately from getting in the water, like the Terminator being dumped in the acid. With the
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up as I go down. I lived a good life.
Yeah.
Don't release the last thing I wrote. Even if I didn't die immediately, like the Terminator, then
long-term health effects.
Or if I didn't let the long-term health effects take me over, like where I started growing gills and I couldn't breathe regular people air.
That's totally worth it, man. You could be
Aquaman.
Have you seen the Jason Momoa's pictures?
Yeah, you showed it to me.
Yeah. I'd want to be Aquaman.
I like the Dave Chappelle bit from Dr. Katz a million years ago, where it's just like, it was the back of a comic book. It's like, who's your favorite superhero? Batman, Spider-Man, or Aquaman? Who's going to pick Aquaman? I mean, sure, you can swim underwater, you can breathe underwater, that's all cool. But then, the only other thing about Aquaman is he can talk to fish. What do you want to say to a fish?
How'd you die?
Hello, Aquaman. Hello, fish. Have you seen any crime here? Under the water? Hi, Aquaman.
Listen, you ever gotten in the shower and gotten that angle where like your water drips off your hand perfectly and you can like kind of point it and spray it? That's the moment when I'm like, this is what it's like to be Aquaman.
This fleeting moment.
Yeah, it's a fleeting moment of Aquaman power. But to be fair,
took 51 episodes of the podcast to get into.
If you do become Aquaman, do you get the 6-pack and the dreads automatically, or is it still like you have to do underwater crunches to get those abs?
Got to put your feet underneath a coral reef and start.
Yeah, 16, 17.
You know what's great? It's a great resistance workout. I mean, like it's sort of like lifting 5-pound weights. Like you're not building muscle, but you're getting super defined.
I bet you have a great set of abs.
This is show muscle.
Right.
This isn't real.
Oh god, but
I have a 32-pack of show muscles.
Oh yeah, 32-pack.
Yeah.
Is that like a half keg?
What else can you do? Except for be just talking to Sebastian under there, doing your crunches, being like, "So what's going on, man? You fucking that Ariel girl? What's up?" Listen, if you don't make a move soon, I'm going to have to do it.
I'll have to do something about it, man.
Listen, I can talk to her. Or at least half of her. To be honest, I don't listen when she talks.
Well, that would be me, because what's going to change just from me becoming Aquaman? Anyway.
Except the prospects.
Anyway,
just Ariel all by herself. She's like, oh, bitch, you in for it now.
Wait, isn't Ariel like 12, though?
I guess in the real story she is.
Yeah.
In the Brothers Grimm fairy tale or whatever.
So maybe not.
Maybe not.
Although, what's the age of consent underwater?
There's no rules underwater.
It's like getting pregnant and special rules apply?
It's like Thailand.
Wait, so you're telling me Ariel might be a boy? Is that what you're saying?
No. Well, I mean, I guess we don't know. The fin covers up the...
The 12-year-old Ariel is actually a 27-year-old boy.
27-year-old Thai boy. Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
Anyway, dead fish.
Off the rails.
There's a dead fish.
Speaking of things that lived under the sea, I saw a dead fish.
Right.
And it sickened me. I was just like, God, this water is disgusting. And then I start looking around, and I see multiple dead fish. I would say a dozen and a half. And clearly looked like they were swimming peacefully. Just like, hey, I'm going to go down this little tributary, and then all of a sudden, death. And then they floated to the top, and that's where they stayed.
Oh, they're dead now. You didn't see them die.
No.
Okay.
But I imagine if I just sat there, if I sat there on the pier, like with a bucket of popcorn and just waited, then I'd just see like fish just casually like, boop.
Makes the fishing easy. I just stand there with a net.
Pick them up.
Pick them up as they come up.
Feed them to people I don't like.
What's a Inner Harbor fish taste like, do you think?
Probably a lot like the 3-eyed fish in The Simpsons.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I was quite angry about it. So I tweeted Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, as any good citizen would.
Right.
Sorry.
Sorry.
And I was none too happy that I didn't get a reply. So I figured I'd vent about it on the podcast. Are you...
Technical difficulties!
Do you want me to keep you down for this time being?
Yeah.
While you're still figuring this out?
All right.
Rob is right now. He's doing...
Now we're good. Okay.
He's doing grip job.
This is the, yeah. Where's the best boy here? Can I get the best boy here? Get this mic stand. Anyway.
One day when we're famous, we're just going to have interns hold the microphones in front of our faces.
Yes. I'd like a big-breasted one, please.
We need you paying attention to the process. We don't need you looking aside going like, damn, titties.
Shit. Anyway, so you tweeted at Stephanie Rawlings-Blake.
Yeah, Mayor SRB on Twitter.
Right, that was super helpful, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right back to you with an answer.
She was just like, thank you for pointing this out to me, citizen. I will get right on it.
Did she?
No. But then I had the argument with you while I was drinking, which is always a good time
right.
to have an argument with Rob.
Because that was also St. Pat's.
Yeah.
That was St. Pat's, right.
And you were saying like, well, what's she supposed to do about it? And then that got me thinking, that's true. Maryland politicians, for the most part, have to promise three things. Mm-hmm. We're going to lower crime.
Right. Let's say specifically Baltimore area.
Baltimore City specifically,
PG
I guess.
County, they're not saying reduce crime. They're saying, we're going to keep the dark people over there.
White with pride.
We'll get to that later, racist. It's fine.
Get crime down, especially the murder rate.
Right.
Because that one's the most important.
Of course.
Not the 30% rise in rape and violent assault.
Rape's inevitable. I mean, I think we can all agree.
Listen, any citizen... In Rome, they raped people.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Okay, we got to stop the murder.
Rome was the greatest civilization in the world until something happened. But yeah, so it's lower crime, better schools, and fix the harbor. Clean the harbor.
And for those in the rest of is it low? Does it sound low to you?
No.
Something wrong with my headphones? Oh, there we go.
Feeling better?
That's a little better. So in Maryland, it's always the same kind of thing because no matter whether or not you're in the city, it's the bay. Mm-hmm. So the city specifically becomes the harbor,
right? But
all part of the same system.
Yeah.
Reduced crime is everywhere except for the places where they're just like, we'll keep crime where it is. We'll
make sure that wall stays up so
exactly.
Baltimore City can't come down.
Exactly right.
Ruin our good time.
But no, basically that's what every politician says. It's the same story.
And I would like to say for the record that the murder rate has pretty much remained the same.
Not true.
Well, okay.
The actual murder rate, the number of people being killed, yes. The number of reported murders is down.
The number of people being killed is down.
Oh, really?
It has been going down. I mean, slightly. We're still at 200-something murders a year.
Right, yeah.
It's not like it went from 200 to 15 or something like that. But if you actually look at the murders versus the population, like the murders per 100,000 people, the number remains the same.
Right. Okay.
So, I mean, like, you got to keep in mind that as you murder people, your population goes down. Right. So...
Murder enough of them.
We're maintaining the same clip, at least.
We're going to murder ourselves right out of a congressman here in a second.
Pretty soon we're going to be Wyoming. Well, you murdered too many people. Now Elijah Cummings can't be your congressman anymore.
No, sorry about that. Yeah. And by the way, it also doesn't count people murdered by police. Those are not considered murders, which have gone up exponentially. But that's neither here nor there.
That's a topic for a podcast a long time ago.
Right.
Maybe you'll hear about it on Founding the Future.
Always hear about it. Yeah.
Or on Cop Watch on a dead drop.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, the Revolution tag. Click on the Revolution tag.
There we go.
Police blotter, maybe, but that's also a mix of actual good stories and bad. Sometimes it's like, the cop bought boots for the homeless guy. And you're like, yay! And then the next one's like, cop shot a guy in the face for asking him how to get
to Main Street.
Right, exactly right.
Terrorist. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah. Why are you looking for it?
Why do you want to know where Main Street is?
Are you watching American Crime, by the way?
No.
So American Crime looked like a drama. It looked good, and it got to the point where I was like, this is going to be cops. I'm not going to be able to watch this show.
Yeah.
Because, like, the cop walks up to a teenager and is like, let me see your ID. And, of course, I'm on my couch at home like, don't give him the ID! No, you don't have to give him ID. Fuck that. You're walking. You're fine.
One question. Am I being detained?
No. And then he's like, what are you guys doing? And I'm on my couch like, I don't answer questions! Fuck you, man. I don't answer questions. Anyway, so I'm not allowed to watch that.
Yeah.
Because, at least while the roommate is sleeping. Because apparently I overreact to the police. Anyway, so yes.
Yeah. But I was asking you, if you had, say you were elected mayor of Baltimore, you had a guaranteed 8 years in office.
Right.
And it's the only thing you really wanted to do. You weren't trying to get to this, governor's mansion or become a senator or move along. You just wanted 8 years as Baltimore mayor.
Right.
And you had a city council that was completely with you.
Right.
So, like, if you said, I want to spend a lot of money on infrastructure, they'd be like, hey, it sounds like a great idea.
Right.
What would be the things that you would do, realistically, to fix the city?
Okay, well, I'm going to put a couple caveats in this. First of all, 8 years is not enough.
Right.
Statistically, we show that it takes about a decade, probably on the order of 15 years, for a situation that is so negative to start growing again. Because what you got to do is you got to put the brakes on the slide. Because we're talking about population loss and crime rates and all that stuff. We're on a slide.
Yeah.
You got to stop the negative first before you can start moving in the right direction. So here's what I would do if I were the mayor and I had absolute power. And I'm going to assume that although I have 8 years, that in the end I would probably be able to get more than 8 years. That I would just continue on. Because the people would rise up and say... Cheat,
all hail benevolent dictator Robert Cheek.
Yes, absolutely. So here's what I would do. I would put out a bond measure to take a bond because we're going to be using a lot of money and we're going to pay it back eventually. But I would bulldoze large swaths of the city. Okay. That's number one.
I imagine you're talking about like vacants and not like Johns Hopkins.
No, yeah, we go go through the city and find vacants and attempt to, especially in the western and northern areas of the city where it's possible to do this, buy and move people as much as possible. So buy the house for whatever they owe plus some and move them out more and just bulldoze the whole block down and then break it down into housing, not row houses, but divide the block into 8 and put a single person house on all 8. And actually, we wouldn't be building houses. What I would do is I would sell them to people because
sell the lots.
What you'll find and what Detroit is finding is that the land itself is worth more with nothing on it than the building that's on there right now.
Well, because you got to spend the money to tear it down.
Yeah. So I would literally just probably myself because I feel like it would make a good video for the later, drive the bulldozer. Yeah. And literally just go through the center of Avaro home all the way through.
Just like Vladimir Putin.
Exactly.
Driving the bulldozer, showing how strong you are.
I'm pretty sure we could get a tank. So maybe I'd do that. Get a tank. Just roll through a building.
Roll through a vacant that has like one brick holding it up.
Right. So we roll through, and then on the other side I have a cameraman. So as I break through that last wall, I pop the hatch and I stand up there. And then
you're like, oh yeah!
Superimpose the Baltimore flag waving in the background. Maybe some music over top, like
you'll have your own anthem written.
Yeah, but it would be in like Russian or some kind of German, some kind of like strong language. Anyway. So you demolish the block, and you put into the covenant.
Not the block.
Not that block. No, we need that. In fact, we expand that out. We expand that as much as possible.
Give it tax subsidies.
Right. So you sell the lots, you put a covenant into the deed that says you can only build a single family home, you can't build a row home anymore. And that does a couple of things. One, home ownership goes up. And it goes up in a good way because you can literally sell that lot for nothing. And there would be no developers. It would be, we are selling you this land. You are going to build a house on it.
Yeah.
If you sell that house, that's fine. But you can't own more than one property that in this type. So you don't have the companies buying them up and building houses. It's investing in the community. And then and this is also going to be unpopular, and it is what it is, you put up fences around certain parts of the city. Absolutely.
Why would you do that?
Because then you concentrate your police force where it needs to be, and we cut out crime.
Now, does the fence go down once the neighborhood cleans up?
Yeah.
So it's like a temporary...
It's meant so that what happens now is that you get crime that tends to bleed out in certain areas, and we're going to avoid that. So you avoid that by concentrating it where it is. It also allows you to get your forces together in areas like that. Now, tied into that is there would be full legalization of certain substances within city limits. So we don't care that...
the Kirk Schmoke plan.
We don't care that you are drinking a beer in public, necessarily. We don't care that you're smoking weed in public. We don't care that you have an ounce of marijuana on you. Yeah. In fact, I would love... and being what it is, for you able to go to a dispensary and buy marijuana, and that's fine. So let's go through what this process does. Tied into that would be infrastructure projects, because the streets in these neighborhoods, people would avoid buying land because you can't get there because the street's a mess and the sidewalks are a mess. So what I would do is I would take people who had been relocated or people who were living in these bad parts of town, and we would say, you get nothing from the government anymore. Absolutely nothing. You don't get food stamps. You don't get temporary cash assistance. You get nothing. What you get is a job. And you come to our job centers, and you come in, and we're going to send you across town where you are going to work on laying asphalt or putting in a sidewalk or cleaning up a park or something else, putting in equipment, working in the schools, something.
Right.
And we put people back to work. And once people are working in the community in which they live, that tends to build morale in the neighborhood as well. So within the first year, what you see is a greater investment in the community. You see people taking pride in what they're doing, and a drop in the crime rate. And I mean, in the dream world where a benevolent dictatorship exists, in those areas in which we have to concentrate people in, the civil liberties get a little push a little back. So we walk through with drug dogs, and the drug dog keys off on you, and we search you.
Sounds like all the things you don't like about cops today.
Because I don't like them about cops today because it's unfettered and it serves no purpose. Because we're not moving in that direction. Do you know what I mean? It's not getting better. It's just being.
Right.
I would say that for limited circumstances in a limited area, that's the key. I don't want a black kid anywhere to be killed by the cops. I don't want a black kid anywhere to be searched by the cops.
I don't want a kid anywhere killed by the cops. Fair enough.
But I don't want a kid searched in a neighborhood just because he's black, let's say.
Right.
But if you were in a high crime area, and you're in one of these concentration areas, then the rules are pushed back, because the other thing is it's going to encourage good people to move out. So combination of you now have a job, you have income, there is a cheap alternative. You can move out of this neighborhood and buy a house in a nice neighborhood and invest in the community. And by the way, the schools infrastructure projects, including schools, we put more teachers in schools, we improve the school buildings, and you get to the point where the natural alignment of things is that the people left in the concentrated areas will be the undesirables, the people who refuse to work no matter what, the people who are going to be involved in crime even if there's no crime to be had. And you have to eliminate their ability to be those kind of people.
Let me tell you a quick story about population.
Sure.
Through 1850, Baltimore was the second largest city in the country,
which amazed me.
And
what was the first? New York?
New York.
Okay.
But there's a very real explanation for this. A very standard explanation for this.
Port of Baltimore.
Port of Baltimore is the second largest immigration port in the country at that time. It's bigger than Philadelphia, bigger than Boston. So more people are coming in.
Right.
Through New York, obviously first, and then Baltimore after that.
By the way, do you know the story of 83?
No. How it used to be the Jones Falls River?
No, well, that. But then there was all of these immigrant populations living around it, and basically the city just went in and it's like, get out. Demolished it, put in a highway. Which was going to become a tunnel, apparently. That's why it ends where it ends.
Yeah.
Because it was going to be a tunnel that crossed, but never happened. So they depopulated and moved all these people out. Mostly immigrant families who had been there for 100 years.
Right.
And then they didn't do what they planned to do. So anyway.
Well, yes, through 1860.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, excuse me, 1850.
Okay.
Baltimore is the second largest city.
Right.
All the way up until 1980, it's still in the top 10 of population. But around 1960 is where it really starts to drop.
Okay.
And we have a couple things happening here, which I think are interesting enough to warrant conversation.
And my first guess was white flight.
A lot of white flight.
Yeah.
During the 40s, I believe, the 1940s, there wasn't a change in the overall population.
Right.
But 200,000 white citizens left Baltimore City, and 200,000 black citizens came in.
Right.
So while the population change didn't change too much, the demographics of the city changed drastically.
Now you did the
in
research.
a 10-year span.
You did the research for this, so you have a whole thing that happened. What was happening during that time?
Well, mostly it was escalated incidents of racism.
Right.
And segregation specifically.
White people moved to Dundalk and Essex and Towson and suburbs. Yeah. Because there were covenants in the land there that kept black families out, by the way. That's the thing that happened. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was reading one about, oh God, who was it? Rouse.
Okay, yeah.
Before he was, the man who created the perfect city in Columbia,
right?
He was somebody who just worked in real estate and wanted to keep people out of Roland Park. Or no, it might have been Meyerhoff. Joseph Meyerhoff might have been. It was one of the two, though.
Before he started crafting the arts in Baltimore.
These two who have very, very well-established names also have a dirty side to them.
Welcome to America, by the way. Everybody who's got a name came by it through dirty means.
And the other one too, I'll look up his name in a second. He's was the richest man in the real estate man in the city at the time.
Right.
$11 million or something like that in real estate. What had happened was around the turn of the century, 1910, I want to say, is when the public housing started.
Right.
They started building low-income housing.
It wasn't public housing.
It's housing and urban development started at that time.
And then they started stacking people together, basically.
But what they had at that time was segregated public housing. Okay. So they had black public housing areas, and they had white ones. Mm-hmm. And if you look at where they were, one of the white ones, for instance, is McCullough Homes. Okay. Which is right by Little Italy and Fells Point. Right. And right now, like a huge crime area in the middle of a part of the city that they don't want a huge crime area.
Right, yeah.
Right by the Inner Harbor and downtown and stuff like that.
Right.
But that used to be a white...
Didn't they recently clean that up, too? Didn't they, reface all the apartments?
Not that I'm aware of.
I thought so. I thought that was where they did all that new building. But maybe not.
No. Anywho, there was black projects, basically, and white projects. And then as segregation ended, it spread across the entire city, and whoever was wherever they wanted to be. Mm-hmm. Well, not wherever they wanted to be, but, they were in a project somewhere in the city.
Nobody wanted to be there. They were put there. But, yeah.
And there were incidents, obviously, along the way, too. The race riots sort of led to a lot of white flight. Right. But most of it seemed to be horrible, so there was blockbusting that was happening.
Well, before you do that, I do want to say, because I think we should address it. Although it's called white flight, it wasn't always about race. It was partially about race, but it was more socioeconomic. It was people who could afford to leave the city kind of running from poor people. Yeah. Although the race riots were a big part, there was also
while the numbers are sort of overwhelmingly white people leaving the city.
There was also it was richer people moving to the suburbs and poor people because the poor people were scary. Now there were poor white people and poor black people, and there were rich white people and rich black people. But the city of Baltimore's demographics were such that mostly white people fled and mostly black people stayed.
Right.
But anyway, so just to be clear about that, that's not all race.
Well, here's where the story gets interesting, at least to me. There was a thing known as blockbusting, which happened around the 50s, I think it was, where a real estate developer would buy a house on a white neighborhood, and then they would sell it at under market cost to a black family. Losing money to sell it to a black family.
Yeah.
And then once the black family moved in, it would cause all the white people to want to leave.
Right.
Because this is still when it was racist, segregated Baltimore, and they didn't want the black family on the neighborhood.
Right.
They thought it was trouble was coming because of that. So they would be selling their houses at a way below market value just to get out.
Right.
Like, our houses are worthless now that we have a black family in the neighborhood. And then they'd sell them for less and then sell them to a real estate developer who would then sell them to black families.
But keep in mind, this is probably one real estate guy.
Right.
The guy buys the house, pays cash, mortgages it himself to the first black family, and then buys at a reduced cost all the white families' homes with the intent of also mortgaging them himself, not through a bank, but mortgaging them himself to the black families. So that he, in making money, has now kind of lost money out in the short term, but it's a long-term investment.
I would like to mention specifically an article from 1910.
Right.
A house was sold on 1834 McCullough Street, which is in West Baltimore.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
There was a front page headline in the Baltimore Sun. Negro Invasion was the title of the headline when a black person bought a house in the city of Baltimore in 1910.
Baltimore Sun.
Yeah.
The paper of record.
Yeah.
Baltimore.
Thank God.
Yeah. I just feel like J. Jonah Jameson is there. What? A black family moved in?
Negro Invasion.
Stop the
front page. Like nothing else happened that day.
By the way, and that
Flower
shows,
Mart, you're getting bumped to page 2.
Once again, shows the very incredible acting skills of J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons.
Who now becomes not only J. Jonah Jameson, but every angry newsman I ever hear of, I now think of J.K. Simmons doing that character. So,
well, I think as much as we talk about race today and where race relations stand, there was a front page headline.
Right. Yeah.
Negro Invasion when somebody bought a house. So keep that in mind. That's how serious it was.
And people next door would then say, although the house is worth $100,000, I only owe $80,000. So if you'll pay me $80,000, I'll move. And then the real estate developer says, well, I'll give you $70,000. And they're like, deal.
Fine. Whatever.
Yeah, get me out of this neighborhood.
It didn't stop once Tracy Turnblad ended segregation.
Oh, God. Do you know who Peaches Christ is?
No.
He's a very famous cross-dresser. And apparently that...
Peaches Christ?
His name is Peaches Christ. Yeah. He's on the Sex Nerd Sandra podcast.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, point being, he said he saw that, and once he saw Harvey... not Harvey Keitel. The original mom from Hairspray.
Oh, Divine. Yeah.
After he saw Divine, that opened up this whole world for him. And now he's the most famous crossdresser in the world.
Divine had that effect on a lot of people.
Yeah.
Anyway.
another Baltimore staple. But watch Hairspray, because that'll show you people's attitudes about race relations at the time.
I mean, it was a joke. I mean, it's a comedy.
Right.
But it's not that far.
And watch the Ricky Lake version. Don't watch it.
Yeah, don't watch the new one.
Although, Travolta... I gotta say,
he went in.
He did. He went all for it.
He bit hard on that one.
Missed, it's bad, but it's just a little off. If you had just,
the first one's so good that it's hard to
Ricky Lake is Tracy Turnblad.
And Vitamin C is, what's her face?
Oh, shit. I didn't realize that until you just said that.
Yeah, you didn't know?
No, fuck.
I mean, I can't remember what her real name is.
No. I
know it'll hit me. I think it's like Caitlin Fitzgerald or something like that. But like,
I know that Amanda Bynes is in the new one. She's the friend in the new one, and that was before she went all crazy.
And Divine played a couple roles in that movie too.
Did you?
Yeah,
I didn't know.
Divine was not only the mother,
right,
but was also the in playing a man.
Right. Yeah,
was the guy who owned the amusement park.
See, I have to be
so like when he's just like, I don't want any of these black folks here, like that whole thing, that was him. Right. That was Divine.
Huh. See.
Yeah.
Now, be careful because I don't know what pronouns he would have used. Was he a straight man who liked drag? Was he a trans man who dressed in drag? Was he a gay man who dressed in drag?
I think he was gay.
But not trans, so we would still use the male pronoun.
I'm not entirely sure.
What is the pronoun? A they? I guess you use the third person if you're uncertain. So,
to be honest, I
you don't buy into that whole
thing? No, I'm perfectly fine with people doing whatever they want.
Right.
But of this case specifically, I'd rather just say whatever feels natural and then apologize. Okay. I'd rather say it and apologize rather than like...
Right.
Because there's almost a part of like, you know... like, have you ever seen like one of those movies where it's like the uncomfortable white guy talking to the hardcore black guy? Oh, he's just like, "What do you like to call yourselves these days? African Americans, Negroes?" Like one of those bits. Just like, "What'd you say to me, cracker?" Like, I don't mean to offend you, homie.
Isn't that a Will Ferrell movie that's coming out now?
Maybe
with Kevin Hart.
Maybe? Will Ferrell and
Kevin Hart, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Wait, Get Hard. That's what it is. And it's basically a 90-minute homophobic and race-related joke.
Yeah. But, I'm sure it's going to go well.
But Kevin Hart, you know, to his credit, he doesn't give a fuck. You going to pay me? How much you going to pay me? All right, I'm in. Let's do it.
So what eventually happened was a lot of black families got caught up with the same sort of thing that happened with the latest financial crash.
Right.
Which is banks betting against them being able to pay their homes.
Subprime mortgages.
Yeah, the one specifically that I was reading, there was a story about a 54-year-old or a janitor who made $54 a week.
Right.
Which, again, obviously...
It's the 1950s. So.
Yeah, it was. That wasn't $54 today's money.
Decent salary, actually, now that I think about it, probably.
Probably, yeah. But his rent/mortgage at the home was $37 a week.
Yeah.
So he didn't have enough money to feed the 8 kids that he had, which is not me being presumptive. That was actually written in the piece. He had 8 kids. But the other problem that was happening a lot, and which led to a lot of the vacancies and the blight, is that black people can own homes,
right,
for 1800s until 1910, basically, when the one black guy broke through.
Purchased a home, we can't get rid of them.
Front page news. But right about the time where black people started buying homes was the time when there was a lot more regulation that went into home ownership. Right. You had to keep your building up to code. You had to have insurance. You had to have, running water. Like all these sort of like all the codes that involved home ownership.
Things we think about today, but were
new back then.
Yeah.
Was something that the black homeowner was completely unprepared for. Right. And often would not do them. Like, what are they going to do? Kick me out of my home?
I own this place.
I own this place.
Right.
But then they'd kick you out of the home because you didn't keep up the house.
Right.
And then nobody wanted to buy the house in the black neighborhood. And then
number one,
that home that was owned in 1950 has just been vacant, and now the roof has collapsed. And
not only did they not want to own the home in the black neighborhood, but because it wasn't kept up to code, now you're buying a house for $50,000 that you're going to have to put $20,000 into to get it up to code to even move in.
Right.
So I'm not going to make that kind of investment. I wouldn't make that in a good neighborhood, let alone this neighborhood, and then it just always sits vacant.
Well, then there was also the rise of the public housing project,
Right.
high-rise towers.
Right.
Which, 60s, 70s was the heyday of that.
Right.
And the locations in which they built them mostly were built around housing projects that were already there, the low rises.
Right, yeah.
If you remember The Wire, they had like the low rises and the high rises.
Right.
Low rises came first, and then they built high rise towers.
Right.
That were housing projects.
By the way, I love that the 60s, that was just 60s style. Because the Charles Center also has the same style building, but it was like upper class living versus projects, but it looks the same on the outside.
But if you look where they built those things, it was because for pretty much the last 70 years, 80 years, Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard has sort of been the dividing line.
Well, I don't think
between
it was 60
because it used to be Fulton.
Okay, you mean when it was Fulton?
No. Well, I mean, it was something else before that. But I'm saying, like,
what was Martin Luther King?
Well, no, because there was other roads there. I think.
Well, because Martin Luther King,
I think they just built that in as like a new.
Martin Luther King became Martin Luther King in 92.
Oh well, yeah. I'm not saying 92. Like I'm sort of speaking generally of like that
road.
Yeah, where you would know it today.
Right.
Fulton used to be the dividing line between Black Baltimore and White Baltimore.
Right.
For a long time. And then as that line started moving closer towards Martin Luther King, is when housing projects were developed right on that line.
Okay.
So if you looked at where the most infamous predominantly black, horrible crime rate housing projects were, they were lined along MLK.
Right.
And almost in a way that, like, we're building the sort of the wall you spoke of.
Yeah.
Like, this is where it ends. Like, this is the...
Well, and what you'll find on the other side of MLK is hospitals, or historical buildings.
Yeah.
Like Ridgely's Delight, which in your covenants, in your deed, you cannot tear the building down. You can renovate the inside, but you can't tear it down.
Yeah.
And that's to make sure you keep the historical building up.
And you can't do anything you can't, like, make any changes to the shutters.
No, nothing.
Like, those sorts of things are...
You can buy 6 of them right side by side, but you have to keep 6 front doors and all the shutters the same and the different colors. And you can plow out the inside and make it one big house, but you got to keep it looking the same on the outside. So, yeah.
Anywho, I think that this long-standing trouble that has been the racial implications of a segregated nation have...
Yeah, we have a black president. Racism is over.
Yeah, I guess.
Post-racial society, man.
While I feel that racism is less of a problem than it was 100 years ago, I think we can all agree on that.
I think it's...
Well, it's a less obviously vocal problem than it was.
But it's now the problem is it's secret. It's like, you see your mouse and you get pissed off, so you kill the mouse, but it dies in the wall and it stinks. Yeah. It's just because you don't see it anymore doesn't mean it's not even worse of a problem.
Right. But getting back to Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, here's the problem. Mm-hmm. You're concentrating on the wrong issues. Honestly, I don't think you're concentrating on any issues. Because all the issues I hear you talking about don't end up happening. Right. You say you're going to fix schools. Schools are worse than ever. Well, you say you're going to lower crime. Crime doesn't get lowered. Mm-hmm. You say that you're going to clean up the harbor, and I see dead fish floating in it. You say that the Baltimore Grand Prix is going to bring $250 million of economic development.
Yeah, how'd that work out?
And it brought in 25, of which the city saw none of it. Right. And in the meantime, we were living there when they were repaving everything.
How much did they spend?
How much did they spend? Mm-hmm. Which apparently was like the amount that the race was supposed to owe the city of Baltimore was only $1.5 million. Right. But the city put a lot more money into it than that. Right. I can tell you right now. But not only that, the pain of the city for how many years? Like 2 years? Yeah. we're dealing with the repaving and the closing of Pratt Street and the closing of this and the closing of that.
Into our neighborhood because the road was closed.
We had to go the wrong way down a one-way street.
Yeah.
Had to find police officers to let us into our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like ridiculous. It was a massive shit show.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to save us. It was supposed to bring all this economic development, and instead it was just a massive joke.
All right, so here's what I'll say about... I don't blame Stephanie Rawlings-Blake because Baltimore City has become...
Well, she's a continuance of a problem.
I don't blame her.
She's along... You can blame Stephanie Rawlings-Blake for the same thing you can blame Sheila Dixon for, the same thing you can blame Martin O'Malley for.
Schaefer. Schaefer did other things, but he also ran on the same shit and he didn't do it.
Right.
Because his big thing was the redevelopment of downtown, and he didn't run on that because you can't say we're going to spend $500 million.
Yeah.
And raise your taxes. So he didn't. He ran on the typical three things, and then as soon as he got into office, he was like, so we're about to spend a lot of money redeveloping downtown. Now, it worked out. Unlike Sheila Dixon and everybody else and Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, it actually worked out.
Yeah.
So that was lucky.
Well, the problem with the redevelopments now is that they're so absolutely corrupt.
Right.
Harbor Point, the new super rich development they're making right next to Harbor East.
Yeah.
It's like basically the government just like at the strip club, like
make it rain,
making it rain on developers. Like, here's all our money. Have fun.
But so we've created a situation where the mayor of Baltimore is a stepping stone to the governorship. Mm-hmm. And the voters
What's your Sheila Dixon?
Well,
then it's a stepping stone to Target. Got to get myself some swag.
And maybe jail, although you actually go to jail time. But no, so the voters have a Dory complex, like from Finding Nemo, where they elect the mayor of Baltimore to the governorship, and then they say, wow, that is horrible. We need to look somewhere else. And then they look one of two places, D.C. suburb or rural area. And then they're like, well, that didn't work out. Let's elect another mayor of Baltimore. And this goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
And then every 20 years or so, they elect a Republican.
Right.
And then they don't get anything done.
Right.
Because the Democrats in the State House just fight with them all the time.
Although Larry Hogan, I gotta say, is getting some shit done. He got taxes repealed, and that's the biggest fucking thing he can do, in my mind.
He's also probably going to get rid of the red line, thank God.
Well, he's not going to get rid of it. He's just going to defund it and tell the city they have to fund it themselves.
Yeah.
And which is just as good as getting rid of it, really. So it doesn't matter
because the city can't afford it.
Yeah. So it's exasperating a problem that exists. Here's my thing. I don't blame Sheila Dixon or not Stephanie Rawlings-Blake. Mm-hmm. You don't like her, so you blame her, and that's fine.
You know what I don't like about her is, at least with former puppet mayors of Baltimore, the ones who just you trot out there and they say the same things over and over again.
Right. What was it? Wow. See, and I was just trying to say, what was the character's name in The Wire?
Carcetti.
Yeah. You mean like Carcetti? I mean O'Malley, right?
Carcetti. I mean O'Malley. I mean Carcetti.
Yeah.
No, but I mean at least with someone like O'Malley, like he has a small monochrome of charm. Where he goes up there.
He has a lot of charm. He sells everything on the charm. That's the problem.
He's
too charming.
He's not charming when he's writing his own speeches and such.
No, he rips off his tie though, plays a little guitar riff, and everybody's
well, like, I mean, like those little moments, you're just like, oh, we have a dreamy mayor.
Yeah,
but like Rawlings-Blake is just the worst of them all because she doesn't have the charm.
No,
she doesn't have the poise or the. I'm really kind of shocked that she's mayor.
Well, because she was chosen.
Well, yeah, I mean, she was president of the city council, so she had to move up to mayor, and she was chosen to move up to governor. And
she was chosen by Sheila Dixon, who was chosen by Martin O'Malley, who was chosen by...
yeah.
Well, actually, Martin O'Malley is kind of the usurper. He kicked out whoever was in line and took it himself.
But wasn't it Schmoke before?
It was, and he was the...
Schmoke kind of left with this whole drug legalization thing. He sort of got kicked out of the club.
I don't think that was it. I think that Martin O'Malley, and I mean, seriously, watch The Wire, because that's basically based on what happened. But he was an up-and-comer with charm, and he was actually the successor. but it was not meant to be him. It was kind of like he
was not the next in line.
No, and then all of a sudden at the end of the road, the mayor who's leaving sees the light and says, well, I'm going to go this direction. So it looks like, at least in part, O'Malley owes his mayorship to that guy. But he doesn't. And he doesn't continue any of the policies.
Yeah.
But so I don't blame Rawlings-Blake because she is just the latest of a line of people who are doing this.
But
the system's broken.
I'm going to say something that people aren't going to like to hear.
Okay.
But I think we might need a couple take your medicine mayors.
Yeah.
Because the problems that need to be fixed are not sexy.
No.
Massive infrastructure needs to be fixed.
Yep.
You know, I don't honestly know what you can do about the vacants. Bulldozing them. Bulldozing them would be fine, but you got to make the areas appealing to live in before you can bulldoze them.
No, bulldoze them first, and then see what you're dealing with. That's what I'd say.
Bulldoze them, see where everybody goes, and then fix the problem there.
But you can only these problems are so interdependent that there is no fix. It's you got to fix all of them. You can't address just one of them. That's really my point about it.
Well, I mean, I think that we're going to have to. You know what? I'm going to take the opposite tact of you.
Okay.
Opposite tact of you. I didn't mean tact. Opposite tact of you. Break down the walls.
Okay.
Because right now we have unspoken walls.
You stay on your side of Martin Luther King, I'll stay on mine.
Yeah. Stay on your side of North Avenue, I'll stay on mine.
Yep.
Stay on your side of Greenmount, I'll stay on my side.
Eastern Avenue.
Yeah.
You stay 1600 block or further. Don't come on this side.
Once you get to Greektown, you got to stop.
Right.
This is our...
Everything on this side of Greektown.
It's kind of funny that not funny. Well, not ha-ha funny, but like... that sort of the ground roots of segregation, which has caused all this trouble throughout the years, which has trickled down to this problem, is still part of the problem that we can't fix.
Yep.
Like, we've sort of dug ourselves a hole so deep that we can't get out.
Well, and it's been passed on from parents to children.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a greater societal problem at work here. And I mean, that's... For what it's worth, is I've said this in previous episodes. Like, you're saying we need to take your medicine mayor.
Yeah.
We do. We need to have a realization with ourselves to say, neither you or I have children, but that in order to make a better world for them, we are going to take our medicine now. We are going to be the lost years where our parents got to live high on the hog and our kids get to live high on the hog, and we got to take the tough shit. That's what happens. We have to take the punishment for it. We pay higher taxes than we really should to get the money to do things.
I will say this. A take your medicine mayor doesn't have to be a bad thing.
No.
Giuliani was kind of a take your medicine mayor. To an extent.
He was, but
because he took care of issues that no New York mayor wanted to. The homeless issue.
Right. And
as ruthless as you may think he was about it, it worked out sort of in the end.
Here's what I'll say, though. The problem with Giuliani is that he wasn't a take your medicine mayor. He was, I'm going to say things that other people don't want to say.
Yeah.
Because everybody can get behind ending the homeless problem. Now, not the way he did it,
right,
but get behind the problem. Yeah. Everybody, most good Christians, even though they were in the peep shows every night, can go out in public during the day and say, we need to get rid of these peep shows.
Yeah.
So the things he did were, and cleaning up the NYPD, again, he cleaned it up on the surface. He didn't really stop the structural problems that are within it.
But nobody ever
see that now. No, and nobody ever will. So that's why I'm saying I don't think he is a take your medicine mayor. I think he was a Stephanie Rawlings-Blake. He's I'm going to keep it on the surface.
Well, he actually did things, so
and
that makes him better than Stephanie Rawlings-Blake.
Fair enough, but like again, just at her defense, which I really don't want to defend her.
Who spends more time out of the city than she does in it.
Right, but she did improve schools because she closed schools instead of spending money on falling down bad schools that were half full. She took 2 full schools and made a full.
That doesn't.
Well, because it keeps resources going to the right place, getting closer to the kids.
Yeah, but if you're not teaching kids right, then you're not.
Common Core is a whole different problem. So we do need to take your medicine mayor and to take your medicine governor and to take your medicine president. We need those things.
Yeah.
But are you going to vote for him? Are you going to vote for the guy that says, I got to raise your taxes because we got to take care of these problems?
I'll vote for that guy, but nobody else will.
Nobody else will. Yeah. And that's the problem. And he's never going to win. So last episode, or 2 episodes ago, when I'm talking about being a benevolent dictator and how that's what we need. We need a Putin. For what it's worth, as much as I hate him,
you know what?
Realistically, that's what we need.
Well, you know what? It's about having somebody out there who is so charismatic and so revered or so liked that they can rise above the problems that people bring upon them, you know?
Well, I think it's also about finding a guy who doesn't care about re-election. Yeah. That's the thing. Because I don't... If the guy lies to me to get elected and then does this hard stuff, I'm okay with it. You know, come in and say the 3 things that you have to say to get elected. Yeah. And then say, so about that, not doing any of that. Right. We're going to deal with these harsh problems. We're not going to talk about swimming in the bay in 20 years.
I got you suckers. I'm not really going to pay any attention to the bay. But
we have other problems. I'd love to, but we have to deal with this.
Those 150-year-old water pipes that are bursting all the time? We're fixing them all this year.
Right, yeah. I'm okay with that guy.
Yeah.
Lie to me to get elected. Well, don't lie to me because you don't have to, but lie to them to get elected. Fix the problems.
Just pull you in the secret room.
Yeah.
Put you on the coke call.
Well, I'd like to think that maybe that would be me. I don't know.
Maybe you'll be the one?
Maybe I'll be the one.
Well, I think this has been one of our funnier podcasts. I haven't stopped laughing since we began.
Listen, sometimes you got to have... sometimes you need to take your medicine episode of the podcast.
Every so often. We can't be fun all the time.
Listen, Mike Brown got shot. We did a very serious episode about cops. It just happens. Which I think I advocated for openly revolting against the police. At least that didn't happen this time. You don't have to worry about an NDAA prison based on this episode.
Right. That's very true.
Actually, that was a pretty serious episode, too.
Well, we did have funny moments in that one. We moved it around. Yeah. Anywho. If you want to have more barrels of laughs, go to ohtheanthem.com, Corey at ohtheanthem.com, ohtheanthem on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, and Vimeo, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
It's 443-219-7595.
Excuse me. Oh, God, that's such a professional. I really want to encourage, if you listen to this whole episode and you're into the politics thing, go to foundingthefuture.us. Basically, most of the stuff we've talked about, taking your medicine, what needs to be done, all of that is on that website. I've been blogging about this stuff for years. It's all on there. So foundingthefuture.us. You can also find me on all your social networks at Robert N. Cheek, at deaddrop.com, themovementinsurrection.com. By the way, The Movement Insurrection, my book, in stores or on Amazon now, buy my book, deals with a lot of this. A lot of it is finding a charismatic leader who can't get elected because people are dumb, but who says by any means necessary. So, so anyway, you got anything else? Any other depressing stuff?
No, I think that's it. Buy your book.
Buy my book and rise up in the revolution. So, as always, you're listening to the Oh the Anthem podcast, part of the Oh the Anthem digital network. So for Corey and Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
I think our new Twitter handle should be @FuckSRB.